What's up, everybody? It's your boy B. Scott with the Philadelphia Eagles. I just want to thank you all for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe to the show and leave a 5-star rating. Fly, Eagles, fly.
Thank you all for tuning into Eagles Brawl of the Brawl Network. However you're listening, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. We greatly appreciate it. My co-host Johnny Page in the house with me today. It's Connor here. We're going to go ahead and do part 2 of our list. This time we're going to choose players from the decade we're going to bring back. It's from 2010 to 2020. We're going to pick an offensive player, a defensive player. We picked our offensive player from the Super Bowl team and defensive player for the Super Bowl team. Mine was Torrey Smith and Malcolm Jenkins. Johnny's was Jay Ajayi and Malcolm Jenkins. Now we're going to pick who we're going to add to our 2020 team. Again, those picks before mattered and factored into our picks today. That's what made it harder. That's what made it more debatable. It's going to be an interesting episode. I have to explain my offensive answer just a little bit for Johnny to really understand, because he gets stuck on these categories that receivers fit into. So it's going to be a fun little debate right here. But Johnny, I'm excited, man. So who did you pick for your offensive player of the last decade to bring back? Especially since you really came up with this last decade idea. I was like, let's do whoever, man. And you're like, no. We need to keep this specific to this. And
so kind of wanted to do since 2000. And I was like, we're just going to pick Dawkins on defense and we'll have the same answer. And we were like, yeah. So let's do the last 10 years. Also, just really quickly, firstly, you didn't say who we picked last time. So for the listeners, if they missed it, you picked Torrey Smith.
I did say it. You missed it.
You
missed it. You must have muted me. Did I cut off for you or something?
I literally did not hear you say that. I'm daydreaming clearly. Right, so ignore me. Anyway, completely ignore everything I just said. Also, really quickly before we do this, I don't know about you, but I found it's surprisingly hard to find that many players over 10 years that I really wanted. I don't think it's because the Eagles are bad. I think some of it's because a lot of the Eagles players that you would pick are still on the team. So Jason Kelce, Lane Johnson, they've been around for ages. Also, I think it shows the Eagles roster's pretty good. I don't know about the Eagles roster depth, but I think the starting 22 for the Eagles are pretty good because it's hard to find obvious upgrades. So on offense, I went all over the place. I thought Prime LaShawn McCoy would be incredibly tempting, but last episode I picked Jay Ajayi, so there's no way I'm having 3 running backs. I also think that Sean McCoy is more similar to Sanders, whereas Ajayi is a different kind of back. Darren Sproles is also tempting. Darren Sproles, everything he gives you, special teams, third down value, just Swiss Army knife type player. I think you could even look at Jason Avant and say, you know what, give Wentz someone who will just constantly get open and catch the ball. But I thought Greg Ward is too similar. So I narrowed it down to 2. I narrowed it down to 2 players that I was after. I narrowed it down to Jeremy Maclin and Evan Mathis. And Evan Mathis, I freaking love. Evan Mathis was an unbelievable run blocker when he was in his prime. So I started thinking, well, you could put Evan Mathis at left guard, put Sayamala at right guard, put Jason Peters back at left tackle. We've got Jay Ajayi and Sanders running, and you've got an unbelievable running game. However, it's 2020, and the Eagles don't have any offensive weapons. So I went for Jeremy Maclin in the end as my player. Connor mentioned earlier on about receivers playing different positions, so I'm wondering if you went Jeremy Maclin as well, or maybe someone else. But yes, I went with Jeremy Maclin because basically he's exactly what the Eagles need right now. He can play X, he can play Z, he can play in the slot. He's reliable, he has very good hands, he can get open, he can get separation, he can also get vertical, which the Eagles needs. Probably slightly underrated Maclin, but I think in his prime he was a very steady wide receiver 1/wide receiver 2. He's not a premium wide receiver. He's not an elite wide receiver like the top guys. And yes, people are going to say you just want Maclin and Jackson back, but Maclin out wide at the X, Jackson MZ, Rager sort of playing the slot and also backing up Jackson when he inevitably gets hurt. I think that gives you a pretty good trio of receivers, and I would much rather have Macklin out there than JJ Arcega-Whiteside next year, that's for sure. So I went with Jeremy Macklin, which is incredible over 10 years of Eagles play. I think Evan Mathis is the best player on the list, but because he's a left guard, I think Sam Hardy's pretty good there. And yes, you can move Peters back, but I'm sort of quite excited to see Peters at right guard as well, to be honest. So I went with Jeremy Macklin. Is that who you went with, or did you have a different take on this?
I did have a different take on it, but I was torn between Jeremy Macklin and my pick here. So are you ready for my answer that you might disagree with?
Yes, go for it.
My answer was a prime Deshaun Jackson. A prime, not 2020 Deshaun Jackson, not 2019, not 2018. I'm talking 2013 and before Deshaun Jackson.
You are definitely breaking the rules there, though. Because he is on the team.
I don't think I'm breaking the rules. Because he might not. He played one game for the Eagles last year, and we don't know what he can do for them this year.
But he's starting. No.
I'm not incredibly confident. I'm not incredibly confident in him. I would be incredibly confident in a 26, 27-year-old Deshaun Jackson, not a 34-year-old one. And I think a 27-year-old Deshaun Jackson completely changes the whole entire dynamic of what the Eagles can do.
The easiest poll I will ever win.
It gives them their Tyreek Hill that they don't have now, because Deshaun is not going to play along the lines of Tyreek Hill at the age 34. At age 27, he did just that in 2017. So that's what I would love. 2013. That's exactly what I would love to add to the Eagles.
So the Eagles wide receiver core goes from not good enough to still not good enough, basically, because they don't gain anyone.
Yes, they do. They get a consistent playmaker. They don't have that,
but they still got JJ X and Greg Ward in the slot, and Jaden Rager with no off season. So they've still got one good receiver, probably. Whereas in my scenario, when Jackson's healthy, they have two receivers that play, and when Jackson's not healthy, then they are a bit short. But they've still got Macklin in his prime. So
a prime Deshaun Jackson just changes everything, though. It adds that Tyreek Hill element to the Eagles' offense.
It does.
They sorely need. And a 34-year-old Deshaun Jackson's not going to do it. But I made my reasonings, though. I gave my reasonings. Regardless of the points my co-host Tyler makes about Deshaun's average games missed per season, he's coming off a completely lost season on an injury he completely misjudged. Can a hernia take a toll on a soon-to-be 34-year-old Deshaun Jackson? Absolutely. Could it take a toll on a 27-year-old Deshaun Jackson who had a career season at that age? No. So that's why I picked Deshaun in his prime. I think you can get way more coming off of him now than you're going to get anything moving forward. The Eagles' last three offensive coaches utilized systems that were heavily dependent on being productive with legitimate downfield playmakers. Deshaun proved he could be just that with each of those said coaches, and the 2020 Eagles needed that exact presence to their wide receivers corps. Because if Deshaun goes down, if 2020 Deshaun goes down like he did in 2019, whoop, I get it. You're right. With your pick, they have Macklin at least, and that's exactly a reliable, separating caliber wide receiver. I completely agree with this pick. I'm not arguing with it. I think Macklin's a good Deshaun, because I was always one of those people that thought Macklin was better than Deshaun. I thought Deshaun was always their playmaking type guy, but Macklin was always their true number one during that era. So I don't hate the answer. I just think when you look at the Eagles, who have their true number one target in Ertz, who have probably their second reliable target in Goddard, if you could add a Deshaun Jackson of the caliber of 2013, they can go to a Super Bowl with that offense.
Yeah, I agree with your reasoning. I'm still right and you're wrong, but I can see the reasoning. Macklin's the better choice because Deshaun's already on the roster. Yes, he's old and he probably won't play much next year, but you sort of said it yourself. Macklin's probably a better player anyway. So give me Jeremy Macklin, because the Eagles need an X. We need someone who can get off press. Macklin can not. He's not the best receiver. He won't beat the best press callers in the league, but Macklin makes this offense a lot better. So yeah, I'm going J-Mac. What do we get from the listeners, Connor, seeing as we've said our answers? I think you did get a few. We sort of didn't tweet this out until before the first episode recording, so we haven't got many responses. We'll get way more after we tweet this out. But the few we didn't even ask them. We just got responses from people already. We didn't actually ask for them. But seeing as those listeners did give us their reasonings, what did we get?
We got at Swagman95. He picked Jeremy Macklin.
Yeah, good one.
We have Sir Reg at King_A_Leo picked Jeremy Macklin.
Oh wow.
We have Dominic Virgil at D Fabrizio 8118 picked Evan Mathis.
Oh wow! They same thinking process as me, and I haven't tweeted that out anywhere, so they haven't listened to anything I've said. It's quite incredible, isn't it?
Mathis. Yeah.
It's quite incredible, isn't it, when you think about this team that you can take anyone from a 10-year period, and we take Jeremy Macklin. Like, we haven't been blessed with a ton of brilliant wide receivers. Like, I like Jeremy Macklin; he's a good player, but you ask most NFL journalists, like Jeremy Macklin, they'll be like, "Oh yeah, that guy that played for the Eagles and then signed for the Chiefs and was quite good, and then sort of retired early." I mean, he's not exactly a big name for a whole 10-year period of Eagles history. I think Evan Mathis is the best player there, personally. But
Evan Mathis was
a stud. But Evan Mathis was also one of those players where PFF ranked him so high. People thought Evan Mathis was like Jason Kelce and Lane Johnson currently. He was never that good. His run blocking was that good. His pass protection was up and down at times. And with PFF, they don't really distinguish between the two. But he was a star. He was a star.
Yeah, but to say, during his prime, he was a top 5 left guard still. But I accept that answer because if you think about it, would you take Evan Mathis in his prime over Isaac Seumalo right now?
Oh yeah, without doubt, definitely.
So that's why I accept that answer, because I'm like, Evan Mathis is better than Isaac Seumalo. He kind of changes the whole entire dynamic of the offensive line in his prime. The interior's incredibly like. Can you imagine an Evan Mathis, Jason Kelce, Brandon Brooks interior? That's just not fair. So
yeah, that's absurd.
But again, I'm with you. I just say Seumalo's a good player. I'm not in any rush to replace him. There's no need to. He's on a great deal too. But I can understand picking Evan Mathis. That's for damn sure. He was that good. I thought he was that good of a player. Top 5 left guard during his prime. But let's go into the defensive player, Johnny. I'm excited to see who you pick for that.
Yeah. So defense. I don't know about you. Is it me? Or the Eagles' defensive players over the past 10 years, low-key, not very good.
That's the absolute truth.
I mean, I'm looking here going...
4 or 5 guys you can legitimately pick from.
So I'm looking at this list going, right, let me take my cornerback 2, because that's what I want on defense. And remember the first one at Jenkins, so I pretty much want a cornerback 2, ideally, or I want a linebacker here. And I'm like, where's the cornerback 2? That I want, and he's not there. Like, I can't find him. The Eagles cornerbacks have been bad. There's not anyone that stands out at all.
Well, 2010, Asante Samuel had one of his best seasons as a pro.
Right.
So I hope I didn't spoil anything.
Right. Okay. This is behind closed doors. This is me doing my research wrong. I thought Asante left in 2010. Did he play 2010 for the Eagles? This is me now frantically Googling.
He did. He had one of his best seasons as a pro.
I mean, your football knowledge is better than mine. I forget things that happened yesterday.
2010, it was him and Dimitri Patterson, which was Dimitri.
Well, he played for the Eagles in 11 as well. Right, okay, I'm well.
He did. He played. So they did when they got Nnamdi and DRC. They kept Asante for that 1 year, even though he was demanding trades and everything like that. They all kept all of them together anyways, like they did that 1 year when they had Lito, Asante, and Sheldon. But 2010 was Asante Samuel's best year as a football player in general. Right. And he got picked a couple times by the fans as well. So that's why I was like, I'll completely take that answer.
Yeah, no, that is completely fine. Do you know what? I'm not going to take Asante, though, because he wasn't my answer, so I'm not going to just switch. I'm still happy with mine. The other answers I considered, as I said, I wanted a linebacker. I sort of thought D'Amico Ryans might be fun. I think he's better than Hicks, Kendricks, and Bradham. D'Amico Ryans, under those few Chip Kelly years, when he was in his prime, was really good. And he gives you leadership that you lost with Malcolm Jenkins as well, because D'Amico was loved by everyone. But I'm not going to go for either of them. I'm going to go for a pass rusher. I'm going to go for Trent Cole, because I think Trent Cole had as I said to you before, off air, I didn't start watching football when I was that young. I'm British. I didn't grow up in a football household. I started getting into it about 08, 09. But I remember Trent Cole in those early years of me first watching, and Eagles fans just raving about how good he was. And it's a shame we sort of ruined his later years by going to a 3-4 under Chip. Because I think Trent Cole would be brilliant. I mean, you imagine that front four of Javon Hargrave, Javon Hargrave, Fletcher Cox, Trent Cole, and Brandon Graham, then bringing Barnett and Sweat off the bench to rotate in. That would be seriously good. And the reason why I take him over Asante is because you've already got a stud cornerback 1, because you've got a stud slot corner. As we said before, you will be able to hide your cornerback 2 a little bit, whereas pass rushers, you need them. You can't hide a pass rush. It's very hard to scheme up a pass rush, especially with 4 players. It's basically impossible. Trent Cole, always healthy. I'm pretty sure barely ever missed a game for the Eagles. So I would take Trent Cole as my answer. I did forget Asante Samuel because I thought he wasn't eligible. But I still think, even now knowing about that, I would go Trent Cole. I get the feeling, though, Connor, I know who you are going to pick.
You took my answer. I picked Trent Cole as well.
Oh, you took Trent Cole over Asante Samuel as well.
I was torn between D'Amico, Asante, and Trent Cole. But
wow. Same three as me. Literally same three I wrote down. I will D'Amico, literally take... I mean, Asante once you said it.
Well, I will literally take Asante Samuel as an answer, and I think anybody that says him, there's no being wrong there, because we don't even know who the cornerback 2 is going to be. So, yeah, throw them out the window. Put Asante Samuel in there with Darius Slade, Nicole Roby-Coleman. Let's go. I'll be fine with that. But this team wins with defensive line. It's Jim Schwartz's defense. I'm considering the 2020 Eagles. I'm not considering what they were back then. I'm not considering what they were underneath Andy Reid. I'm considering what they are now. And this team relies on the defensive line to win. And Trent Cole is exactly the player they need. So, yes, I just said I'll take Asante Samuel as an answer. I might not really. Deep down, I might still just say, hey, dude, it's got to be Trent Cole, because I was very torn between D'Amico Ryans. I think D'Amico Ryans in this defense, when he's in his prime, because the Eagles never really got a consistently healthy D'Amico Ryans. He was one of the better linebackers in the league. He was before Luke.
He ran the defense.
Before Bobby Wagner, Luke Kuechly entered the field, we were talking about D'Amico Ryans as one of the best defensive players. He was Rookie of the Year from a defense. He's a defensive player, Rookie of the Year. So he was getting ready to revolutionize that position. It was injuries in Houston caught up to him, and then injuries in Philadelphia caught up to him. So that's what was hard for me, is because we never really saw what D'Amico Ryans could really be. But the caliber of linebacker that he could have been for this defense, he would have been one of the best linebackers this team ever had. I think he would have been better than Trotter if he was fully healthy for his team. So that's why it was that hard for me not to pick D'Amico Ryans either. But you have to pick Trent Cole, because the Eagles are missing that incredibly productive pass rusher. And I emphasize the word pass rusher, because Brandon Graham is an elite defensive end. But just an above-average pass rusher, I think, is a fair label to put on him. He's not consistent. He's not some guy that you can rely on.
He's not a 10-plus sack guy a year that Trent Cole was.
But he is an elite defensive end no matter what, because there's more facets to the game than pass rushing as a defensive end. A lot of people want to forget that, or not even put that into consideration. He's great at everything else and is a force when kicked inside, Brandon Graham. But the 2020 Eagles could desperately use a surefire 10-plus sack defensive end. And who better than Cole, who's done it 4 times in his Philadelphia tenure? Barnett is an average player, which we heavily point out on this show, and I might add, but in a role somewhat reminiscent to what he had in 2017, sharing snaps with Chris Long, could actually benefit him, especially with such a productive pass rusher like Trent Cole. The Eagles' defensive line is the driving force to that defense. Adding a natural pass rusher like Cole would amplify the possibilities that defensive line could achieve. Adding Trent Cole to the current Eagles 2020 defensive line would win them another championship. There's no what ifs. There's no if the Eagles win the Super Bowl. Do they have the team to win the Super Bowl? They would win the Super Bowl if Trent Cole was on that defense the way it's constructed right now. It's bold, but it's true.
Yeah, it's true. Trent Cole was... Sorry, I was on mute and I was trying to talk there. Classic. You had Trent Cole to this team, like you mentioned. That pass rush, as you said, Jim Schwartz, Super Bowl, you need that pass rush to be good. I mean, they won the freaking Super Bowl with a strip sack by Brandon Graham. They'd have to be, I mean, maybe wouldn't say favourites for the Super Bowl in NFC, because there's some very good teams in there, but having a top edge rusher, as you said, for all the reasons you said, and I repeated as well at the beginning, it changes that defense. It changes it, because you can't, with Derek Barnett, and we mention this all the time, so I'm repeating myself, but he never gets double teamed. He's never chipped. You never slide protection his side. You're always doing it to the opposite side. You put Trent Cole in there. Brandon Graham's one-on-one. no one's sliding protection to Brandon Graham's side. Brandon Graham will kill right tackles one-on-one a lot of the time. So, I mean, that front four would be borderline unstoppable. If Hargraves is as good as we hope, Hargraves, Cox, Cole, and Graham is can you imagine? As I mentioned at the end, it's a shame we didn't see Cole and Graham ever play together really in their prime, because I think they would have sort of been a really good force together, because both could play the run,
Absolutely.
Both could rush the passer. It's a shame we never got to see them really. But yeah, that is right. That's, as you said, I'm surprised you didn't go Asante, because I know he's your boy. But I think, if they did as with the cornerback position as it is, if you get that front four pass rush, I could play cornerback too, and I think we'd be fine, because the quarterbacks are not going to have long to throw at all.
I have a reason to expand on why I'm so confident on that team winning the Super Bowl, and I'll
explain after a quick word from our sponsor.
What's going on, guys? It's Connor from Eagles Brawl here. Have you been struggling to find an affordable car detailing company lately? Are those noticeable scratches on your lovely vehicle making you agitated every time you see them? Well, I have just the spot for you. Check out Why Not Us Detailing, an auto detailing company serving Chester County and the Philadelphia area. From wash and wax to paint correction, Why Not Us Detailing does it all. Call 610-425-7239 to schedule your appointment today. That's 610-425-7239. You can also reach the company on Instagram by following their page, Why Not Us Detailing. Tell the guys Eagles Brawl sent you for discounts on your next automobile service. Give Why Not Us Detailing a chance to make your car shine today. All right, welcome back. So, to expand on my Trent Cole thought, look at the 49ers defensive line last year. That was really one of their major driving forces for that defense going to the Super Bowl. They had Nick Bosa, they had Arik Armstead, they had DeForest Buckner, and they had Dee Ford. What is much different than that from adding a prime Trent Cole to the Eagles defensive line and that defensive line? You have your natural pass rusher like Nick Bosa and Trent Cole. You have your mask-eating, body-eater, helping the other natural pass-rushing interior defensive linemen with opportunities like Arik Armstead and Javon Hargrave. You have that interior presence, top three at his position in Fletcher Cox. That would be like DeForest Buckner. And then Dee Ford is a better sack artist than Brandon Graham. But again, Brandon Graham's the overall better defensive end than Dee Ford. So what's the differences between those two defensive lines? And if one got to a Super Bowl, why can't the other? Is my point there. And again, the Eagles offense, the way we constructed, I don't see how that team wouldn't win the Super Bowl, especially given this current NFL. I think outside the Chiefs and the Ravens, the AFC's like, bah. I think the Eagles would, with this current team that we have them assembled with, could take on those two teams. And the NFC, we don't know about the Buccaneers. I would consider them a contender, but we don't know about them because they're so new of a team. The Saints, they always give the Eagles trouble no matter what. I think that's like the one team that I would still keep an eye on because Sean Payton, for some reason, just has Doug Peterson's number. Really, though, they would crush the Cowboys. They would run away with the NFC East if they had this current team.
Yeah, agreed.
They would Seahawks, maybe, but I think if you put this team together, assemble this team, they're better than the Seahawks. They're better than the Packers. I think they would beat the 49ers because I don't think the 49ers offense would be able to score enough points on this defense for them to beat the Eagles. I think it would be a low-scoring game, but I don't think this 49ers team currently could beat the Eagles that will be assembled. So really the top teams would probably be like the Saints, the Ravens, and the Chiefs for competition of the Eagles getting out Lombardi if they assemble this currently team for 2020. Would you agree? Am I all or any other team?
No, you're not missing anyone. I would still say the Saints. Personally, I'm super high on the Saints. I just think they're really good. 49ers, really good. 49ers, I think, are excellent. As you said, I think the way that they play, I think this defensive line would hopefully do a serious job against their running game. And I don't trust Jimmy G at all to throw it.
No.
So
he would.
I think the Bucks will wait and see. We'll wait and see. Brady's 40, so we'll wait and see on the Bucks. I think the 49ers and Saints would be the only two. And I think we'd handle the 49ers with that if you add Trent Cole to this current team.
Absolutely.
And I think we probably handle the Saints. In fact, what's interesting is thinking about it, that when you look, the Eagles haven't got any cap space and the cap room's going to go down. But can you imagine if they did have the money to sign a top pass rusher? That front four. And nothing against Barnett, but I know Trent Cole was exceptional, but man, you put like a Griffin or Everson Griffin or something on that front four.
They could make it happen. They could on a 1-year deal. It's
tempting. It's tempting.
It is. I would. I mean, I know this is like completely out of topic now, but yes, I would completely add an Everson Griffith to this team.
Yeah.
That's like one of the things I would love to do. Even if they bring back Vinny Curry, I'm not even going to argue with that. But Everson Griffith could just turn this whole defensive line around. Like that's why I think you and I are craving for a prime Trent Cole so badly, because if you add that consistent edge threat that can get you 10+ sacks a season with Fletcher Cox, Javon Hargrave, Brandon Graham, and even Barnett to come in as a third defensive end. Yeah,
Barnett and Sweat.
Defensive line.
Barnett, Sweat, Malik Jackson in your second team.
That's something, man. That's why I would love that. When I look at the 49ers, I would say the Eagles would win that matchup because our interior defensive line would destroy their interior offensive line. That's probably their weakest unit on their whole entire team. So that's a huge advantage because if you get in Jimmy G's face, he's going to throw interceptions, as he's shown. He's very inaccurate when he gets pressured, so huge. That's how you win the game there. The Saints have a whole new interior offensive line as well. They moved on from Larry Warford, and they replaced him with a rookie at Cesar Ruiz.
But their line is very good. Their line is good.
No, their line is top 5. They have great players on it, but I'm saying the chemistry might not be.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously they have the bookend tackles. Teron Armstead and Ryan Ramczyk are two of the best at their positions. So they have the bookend tackles for sure, which really all that matters. And so does the 49ers. They have Trent Williams and Mike McGlinchey. But I think the Eagles could feast on the interior of Saints line at least. That matters to me because Drew Brees is his arm is completely shot. I think that's always intermediate stuff. And if you can get in the quarterback's face and not allow him to see the middle of the field, that's very important to me. So that's, again, why I would think maybe the Eagles have a chance against the Saints. But another thing about the Saints is their defense is very underrated. So I don't know if we added the right guys on offense to overcome the Saints defensively. So I do think there's only 3 teams that I could legit say are in their way: are the Saints, the Ravens, and the Chiefs. That's crazy.
We're not far off, are we? You feel like the Eagles are as widest exercises. Good, so but also annoying. You wish you could bring back one or two of these players, because you can just there are a couple of holes on the roster. Everyone knows it. We talk about it all the time. There are still a couple of holes. But yeah, was there anyone else we missed on defense? What did the listeners? What did the 3 people that replied before we actually asked for replies? What did they say? Because they might have said something we missed. Do you know what? I've got a totally random option on defense that the listeners are going to hate and you're going to hate. But I'm going to throw it out there once we hear from the listeners.
Oh, you want to hear from the listeners first? All right. So, again, Swagman95 on Twitter picked D'Amico Ryans.
Yep. Good shout.
Which is Sir Reg at King A. Leo picked Trent Cole.
Yep. Perfect.
Obviously. And then Dominic picked Asante Samuel, which again...
there we go. So is there anyone you think we missed? I went through loads of players on offense. Is there anyone you think we missed on offense? I went through, if you forgot, Shady, Sproles, Avant, Mathis, and Macklin. Was there anyone else that you think that you considered that we didn't talk about who could be an option?
On offense?
No, I'm not sure there is. Because I'm looking at basically... Like, as you said, you could say Brent Selleck for a third tight end for blocking purposes.
No, I'm good.
But it's not enough. It's not enough. It's receiver, isn't it? The Eagles have not had that many good receivers. It's receivers.
Yeah,
you need receivers.
I guess some people would pick Jason Avant for his reliable hands, but again,
I just don't think he gives them the explosiveness that they need. They've got Goddard on Ertz. I think it's an outside receiver or it's a second running back, and I've already given them a Jai, so why would you take the Sean McCoy? Although the Sean McCoy is obviously in his prime was unbelievable. So, yeah, I'm not sure we missed anyone. What about defense? We only really spoke about Asante, D'Amico, and Trent Cole. I think, to be honest, going back to the Super Bowl team, you could say any of the linebackers again, but why would you take them over D'Amico? So I would take prime D'Amico. Do you want to hear my absolute ridiculous answer on defensive player?
ridiculous answer. Okay, go
ahead. Because I discussed it. I thought back to myself and I thought, do you know what? A prime Nnamdi Asamoah at cornerback.
The Eagles never got that though, so I don't know if I don't know if I can count.
He played for the Eagles in the decade.
He did, but they never got that at all. They got the way worse.
For the purpose of this game, though, or this list, he played for the Eagles in 2011 and 2012.
No, that's not because
he played for the Raiders in 2010. And he was
really great when he was on the Ravens originally. When he first won the Super Bowl with them, I should have said let's bring back that Torrey Smith.
That's all.
I knew that's where we were going with this.
So if you wanted a player who played for the Eagles,
I would have said if.
That's my unpopular option. And I'm not picking him. I'm just saying that's my unpopular option.
Nnamdi was at the time a top 2 corner. He was along the same lines as Revis.
Yeah,
when he was with the Raiders.
Was so good.
I understand picking him, but I mean he wasn't like that at all.
No, he's not for the Eagles.
So I don't. Yeah.
Anyone else we missed on defense? Then anyone we badly missed on defense? There's not many. We have not had. I say we haven't had good defenders. It's a lie. Most of them are still on the team. Fletcher Cox, Brandon Graham. They've been here for a while.
Yeah, but I say they kept the good ones because
they're secondary. Though,
very rare they come back.
There and at quarterback too as well. Like once you get past Asante, nothing. Malcolm Jenkins at safety. We've already taken him, so we don't need another safety. But still, not much else. Like there's no one that really stood out to me as an obvious pick. It was, as you said, the 3 listeners that we.
I was wondering actually if anybody would pick Jason Pabin. I was wondering if anybody was.
Yeah, just why would you take him over Trent Cole? It's the thing, isn't it?
No, yeah,
just no reason.
It's wrong. Yeah, absolutely wrong.
I don't think there's anyone else we missed. I think most answers will have to be one of the 3. And I don't think there is anyone else. I think it's Cole, Ryans, or Samuel. And if someone else has a different answer, let us know. We will ask for responses, obviously, as we always do. It's good hearing.
I would love to. Yeah, I would love to hear a different answer because I
can't think of. Yeah, I did. I couldn't get
one.
No, I couldn't.
I can't. On offense, I mean, I guess since I used this answer, maybe you could say a prime Jason Peters.
Yeah, seeing as you said that, yeah.
A prime left tackle, Jason Peters.
Yeah, would not be bad at all. I mean, that line would be insanely good. They'd still need a guard, though, unless you think Matt Pryor could start.
If that's your weakest link at one position.
Yeah, exactly. The offense is pretty good. Like, you want receivers, man. It's just outside receivers is what this team needs. We know it. Yes, I know they drafted them before you tweet me, but exactly, they drafted them, and it's a pandemic offseason. So the odds are they're going to be short this year.
And I mean, we're recording in August 2020. We don't know what Jalen Reagor is at this point. But to pick him or to say him that's not right.
I think Evan Mathis, as we said, is I think Evan Mathis
is probably like the one answer that Johnny and I didn't pick that I would for offense that I would say absolutely, because if you told me my pick is between 2020 Isaac Sayamalu or 2013 Evan Mathis, 2012 Evan Mathis, I'm taking Evan Mathis.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah, I don't think there's anyone else we missed. Any other answers? Tweet us.
That's sad though, man. To think about that actually, especially for defense, because I thought about the same thing. I was like, wow, I can only think of like 3 players that are legit or right answers.
Yeah,
D'Amico, Trent, and Asante.
Yeah. Other than that, and what's interesting is neither of us made our linebackers better. So if we look at our overall teams, my offense has got Macklin at X, and it's got Jay Ajayi as a backup running back. My defense is set at defensive line because you've got Trent Cole starting, and yours is the exact same, and you've got Malcolm Jenkins at safety. But neither of us found a linebacker that was worth taking over those 2. I know the Eagles don't value the position, but still, if there was a star, I would take him there. D'Amico Ryan's as close to we've got as a star, and even D'Amico had problems with injuries and stuff. So, yeah, no one stood out massively on defense for me. It was harder to pick offensive players than defensive players for me for this exercise. I think defense was pretty much had to be Jenkins personally. And I think it sort of had to be Trent Cole or Samuel as well. I don't think there was much choice there, to be completely honest.
Because I know I said D'Amico was one of my answers, but I mean, if I'm one of these guys that likes Jim Schwartz as defensive coordinator, I think because again, this is a team that struggled mightily with finding a good defensive coordinator.
He would take Trent Cole and Jason Babin before he took D'Amico, I bet.
And I wouldn't disagree with it. Like, we have to consider where the football is going in this certain day of age. The linebacking position is not going to be what it looked like back then anymore.
Yeah.
Especially this year. If this year more than anything, I think the Eagles are turning more to a less linebacking type team. They're going to go. I think we're going to see probably what. I don't know if you want to say I'm crazy for this, but maybe 70% dime packages.
Yeah, it won't be that high. I'd be surprised. It depends what you count as dime, but yeah, you could say I wouldn't be surprised if you say 80% about nickel and dime, so maybe 20% in base. Maybe I think the Eagles will try and play nickel against some teams in their base, maybe, but we'll see. I don't think the Eagles are going to want 3 linebackers on the field very much at all.
No.
Maybe against specific teams like Giants and Cowboys. Anyway, I think we will. I'll let you wrap it up there. As I mentioned before, I go. Please tweet us. Let us know if you've got any other options. We might have missed someone. We're just people searching Eagles teams rosters. So if we did miss someone, then let us know. But I reckon most of the listeners would agree that
no, we did our homework.
There's clear players that stand out. There's clear players that stand out.
Yeah, I did my homework on this. I don't know what any other. If I feel like any other answer, I might either laugh at it, think you're wrong, or just disagree with you completely and hear your opinion out. Because there's nobody else you could pick. Like, you could pick the Super Bowl one was way more of an open discussion. This one here, I don't think it is. That's why we saved it for last. Because you look back on these the decade team, like, it's not the best, prettiest picture from the Eagles era. We did go through that whole Andy Reid Dream Team era then, and Chip Kelly debacle. So, I mean, it's not like this team was, outside of Doug Peterson's success, a pillar of an excellence. So, it was tough to make those picks. I think people would struggle with it too. I don't think it's just us.
Right, before we go, I know I just said finish, and this is why I make episodes longer. One answer on offense we didn't talk about. Could you're talking about Prime when they played for us, and we mentioned backup quarterback position. What about Mr. Michael Vick? Run the ball on the goal line, 2-point conversions. It's going to be better than Jalen Hurts running the ball. The Eagles love this new Lamar Jackson offense. He's an interesting answer to consider. I wonder if anyone would. I don't think anyone would choose him, but if you believe,
no, I don't. I mean, I think people would consider it because
I think he's worth considering. I think he's worth mentioning as someone that someone might choose.
If we're going to say Nick Foles,
exactly,
that's fair. Because Michael Vick at one point in time during his Eagles. Oh, yes, absolutely. And then one point during his Eagles time, even when he's 2 times actually, he had to agree to be the Eagles
competition. Yeah.
No, he had to agree to be the Eagles backup quarterback.
Yeah,
is what I'm saying.
And he beat Foles in the QB competition at the end of the day.
Yes. Yeah, he did. But I'm saying, like, would I think Michael Vick would cause a ruckus about being a backup to Carson Wentz in his prime? Maybe, but when he signed with the Eagles, if you want to consider Michael Vick, if we're taking the Falcons out of the equation, you want to consider Michael Vick as an Eagles quarterback, then yes, I think he would come in to be the backup because this, again, they signed him out of prison. He was a backup then behind McNabb and Cobb. Came in, really took Cobb's job. And then Chip Kelly comes in. Vick gets injured. They can't pull Nick Foles of how he plays. No.
And for all the Jalen Hurts fans out there, Vick running the ball as a second quarterback option. I mean, like, Michael Vick running the ball is pretty much, except for probably Lamar Jackson, as good as it ever got the quarterback position. So it'd be an interesting one. I wonder if anyone would tweet. I wonder if anyone would choose him. I don't think they will. Maybe that's the last one I'll throw out there. But that's all I've got. I got no one else.
I don't think people would think about it. I think you're just raised a point now that people are sort of thinking. Even I'm thinking about it now. I'm like, like
that's all I got. I got nothing else though. That's it. No other players I could think of. It just came to mind then, as I was thinking about it.
But all right. That's our list. We got it all set now. We had our let's do a little recap real quick. We did our Super Bowl picks, which again, just so because Johnny didn't hear it at the beginning of the episode, we had our my offensive player was Torrey Smith, my defensive player was Malcolm Jenkins. Johnny's offensive pick was Jay Ajayi for that Super Bowl team. His defensive pick was also Malcolm Jenkins. And then for our all-decade team, I picked prime Deshaun Jackson, which Johnny shakes his head at and says I'm wrong. He picked Jeremy Maclin, which I think a lot of people would agree on with him, and I'm not really going to argue with him on that one. And then again, we both picked Trent Cole. So we had 2 of the same picks for our defensive players, which is funny because we kind of do evaluate the defense at the same we agree on most of the defensive side of the ball discussions. But what a time, man! What a good list. I'm excited to hear what people have to say. We had people chiming in already with D'Amico Ryan, Asante Samuel, LeGarrette Blount, Michael Kendricks. So Jordan Hicks even wasn't answered from somebody. So great interaction. Continue keeping that up. Send us your list. We would like to debate them. Maybe we'll do a recap episode. We'll see. But again, thanks for tuning in to Eagles Brawl. Make sure you subscribe, follow the show, leave a 5-star rating at the end of the show. And yeah, thanks for tuning in. Send any questions you have for the show that you want answered on air. Either leave a review on Apple Podcasts or go ahead and send the show a DM. The DMs are open. We follow back everyone. Thanks again, guys.